Hello everyone, today I will be talking about the difference between ferrous and non-ferrous metals. Now I kind of already went into this in one of my videos, but this one's going to be a little bit more of an in-depth explanation of what makes the difference between a ferrous and a non-ferrous metal. So with that, let's get into it. So let's start off with ferrous metals. What is a ferrous metal? A ferrous metal is any metal that is mostly iron. Ferrous is pretty much another term for iron. So I guess that makes it really simple, but what makes iron so special that it gets its own class of metals? Well, iron is magnetic. It attracts magnets, or rather magnets attract iron. Not entirely sure where the attraction goes, but they are attracted to each other. Magnets tend to stick to iron. Iron tends to spark whenever you grind it. Now, depending on the carbon content of the iron, the sparks may look a little bit different, as well as sometimes the alloy composition. But, at the end of the day, most of your iron alloys and iron and steel and all that good stuff are going to spark and be magnetic. Now, there are also some exceptions to the magnetic rule. Some forms of stainless steel aren't magnetic. And there are also other elements out there that are magnetic. Gadolinium, nickel, and cobalt are three metals that aren't iron that are also magnetic. But generally speaking, iron, for the most part, is going to be the metal that you run into that is magnetic and that sparks. Iron is also really easy to forge. From a blacksmithing perspective, you heat it up and you beat on it with a hammer, it acts pretty predictably. It's just going to deform, stretch out really beautifully, and all that good stuff. And whenever you heat treat it properly, it can harden or it can soften up depending on what you do to it. Iron is pretty unique in that way, especially steel. Steel, at least carbon steel, is known for its heat treatment properties, in which if you cool it down from a high temperature quickly, it becomes harder, and if you bring it up slowly to a lower temperature, it tempers it and makes it a little bit more springy. And generally speaking, the more carbon there is in the steel, the more that tends to be true. Now, there does come a point at which the carbon content in the steel does get a little bit ridiculous and it starts messing with the chemistry of it, but in large part, for most steels that you'll encounter, that is the case. Now let's talk about non-ferrous metals. So, non-ferrous metals are literally everything that aren't iron. So, aluminum, copper, brass, zinc, gold, silver, lanthanum, gadolinium, sodium, lithium, whateverium. Pretty much any metal that isn't iron. Non-ferrous metals, as such, are difficult to broad stroke categorize as far as their properties are concerned, but in large part, they're mostly softer. Now, this isn't true for things like, say, for instance, tungsten or osmium or something like that. Some of those harder, heavier, and really tough metals out there. But for most metals that you're going to work with, they're going to be generally softer than iron. Non-ferrous metals also, with the exception of aluminum of course, generally tend to be less common. Steel and iron compounds are everywhere. You look at skyscrapers made of steel. A lot of the things that you encounter on a daily basis, silverware, mostly made of stainless steel now, kitchen knives, steel, pressurized cans, the list goes on and on. Railroad spikes even. There's just steel everywhere. And it's a really good metal. It's also very common. So you're going to find iron and steel pretty much everywhere. But copper, less common, but still pretty common. It's everywhere in wires and such. Sodium, well, that's locked up in a bunch of different compounds as well, mostly salt, sodium chloride. That's a compound that, sodium really likes to be a part of. So, you do get a lot of metals sometimes that are more common than iron per se, but as far as in their metallic form, you're going to find iron a whole lot more. And again, this is just sort of generally speaking, there is no set in stone. These are the properties of ferrous and non-ferrous metals. Non-ferrous metals are so diverse, frankly, it's hard to really categorize what what properties non-ferrous metals include. That's almost like trying to classify water and non-water liquids. There are a lot more non-water liquids out there than there is water, but there's a lot of water out there, so we just kind of have those categories. With that, thank you for joining me. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please do leave a like, subscribe, comment below, give me some ideas for future videos, and yeah, pretty much all I got. So thank you guys for joining me for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.